Hey, hi, hello, good morning. Welcome back to another writing vlog. It's basically the Sunday after my last writing vlog. So if you watched my last writing vlog, you know that today is the day that I plan to write for the first time in a really, really long time. All this week, I have been rereading my book in anticipation of laying down the first scene after an extended break. And I'm feeling okay. I think that there's just a lot of buildup in my mind over it, and you know, it's probably going to be really uncomfortable, and that's okay because sometimes it's deeply uncomfortable to write. Other times it's absolutely wonderful to write, and we move through the discomfort in order to get to the great, amazing place where the movie plays in your head and you type it and you just are in such a zone that you remember why you're doing this in the first place. So here's hoping we get to that point. If you are new here, hello. Hi, my name is Megan. Welcome. I am a writer who has recently quit my job to go back to school to work eventually in libraries. I have written a previous book called The Folk that is all about a fantastical retelling of the legend of Anastasia and the Eastern Front of World War I. It is not published. It is complete. However, I've put that a little bit on the back burner while I go back to school and try to save up some money to hire an editor to eventually start the process of self-publishing it. Today and currently, when I'm talking about writing, I am writing my dragon book, which I don't have a name for, but I really do want to get a name for it. It's just one hasn't come to me. I feel like with the folk just like fell into place, and that's just what I called it. I don't know if it will be published under that title, but I do really need to find a name for this dragon book that is not just dragon book. So that's what I'm currently working on. I'm currently working on my dragon story, and all this week I've been rereading it, and I really enjoyed taking this time off because I really like the story. And if you had asked me at the beginning of this year, I would have said that I'm really struggling with this story, but I actually think it's pretty good. So let's hope that I can continue to be out of my own head in this process and just write, because that's exactly what I want to do today. You saw me this morning go through my kind of Sunday chores. I folded some laundry, I did some dishes, I watered my plants, and now I'm gonna go to a coffee shop and force myself to focus for a couple hours, and then I'm going to take the rest of my Sunday off and just read. And that will be my treat for having done this difficult task of writing for the first time in many, many weeks. I hope you're cozy. If not, get cozy and let's get into it. Well, it is complete. The first words in a very, very long time. I wrote 678 words, and I'm choosing to be very happy about that. I am proud of myself for doing it. I think that the hardest part is starting. However, to keep it real, I gave up because it got difficult. I'm kind of struggling in a scene that has a lot of really great action, but I'm not entirely sure what the point of the scene is yet. I know that I need to get my character to a point in the scene where she's able to like do something. I'm sorry this is so vague. Hopefully you're following. But I need to get her to that point. However, I want to really work on the motivation of the character that's in the scene with her. And I want his reasoning as to why he's acting a certain way to be a little bit more clear. So I stopped because I have to think about it, frankly. This book might take me a year to finish. It might take longer. My very first book, it took me 5 years. But that was also because I just kept starting and stopping, and I think about 3 of those years I wasn't completely focused on it. It took me from start to finish of like just really, really trying, probably about 2 years to write. And so this one might take that because I want to take my time with it. I don't want to rush it. So I am choosing to be happy with 678 words, and I will be able to pick back up tomorrow, halfway through the scene. And at the very least, if I can't work on the motivation, just get to the end of the scene, because I feel like I keep saying this with this draft, but I just want this to be the bare bones of the action and fill out all that fun stuff in the second draft. So what am I gonna do now? I broke my book buying ban. We knew it was gonna happen. We knew that was gonna happen. This is truly it for the next year or so, unless I get surprised with books or get given a book as a present. This is it. But I wanted to celebrate being done my first week of school, and also this book is trending massively right now, and I really, really wanted to read it. This is called Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. If you haven't heard about it, it's essentially a story of a young woman who joins a dragon riding academy. It has an enemies to lover romance in it and a lot of action, and from what I understand, a pretty good cast of characters. And it's a dragon book. I picked it up because it's a dragon book and I really want to read it. But I will say I read the first chapter. When I was writing the folk, I avoided all books that even felt similar to the folk. The Folk is a fantastical retelling of the legend of Anastasia set in the Eastern Front of a magical world that mirrors the World War I. And so while I was writing it, I avoided a lot of books that felt like that, namely Shadow and Bone. I hadn't read Shadow and Bone before writing The Folk at all. And I realized afterwards, when I had completed The Folk and I finally read Shadow and Bone is completely different than The Folk. They feel like completely different books. And so this time around with my dragon book, I am really not avoiding books that sound similar to my book at all. Namely, any books with dragons. I actually want to read all of the dragon books out there because I want to get as much experience within that specific genre of fantasy books as possible. So this is a long-winded way of saying that if you are avoiding reading books that feel like your book out of fear, maybe try to overcome that fear, because it was so silly that I was scared of it, because it turned out to just not really be a justifiable fear. So anyway, so I'm reading this book and I read the first chapter, and what's really funny is it's a dragon book. I think there's going to be war in this. I think there's going to be dragon battles, but one of the characters is actually named after my main character of this dragon book, which is Mira. My main character her full name is Mira Lise, but I thought it was really funny because I feel like old Megan writing The Folk would be so scared about that, but now I'm like, whatever, it's fine. This book is completely different than the book that I'm writing. So I got that book and I'm really excited to dive into it. I think it's gonna be fine. And the other book that I picked up is Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingslover. To be completely blunt, I basically got this because of the fact that it just won the Pulitzer Prize, and I vibe really well with Pulitzer Prize winners. I don't know why, I just do. So I've been wanting to read this book for a while, but I didn't pick it up because I tried to read Poisonwood Bible from this author many, many years ago, like when I was in high school, and I couldn't get through it. So I've kind of avoided her books ever since, but I'm a much different reader now, and if you have the chance, you should absolutely read the blurb of this book because it actually made me a little weepy. Granted, I was a little emotional. However, it made me a little weepy when I read it. I also really love books set in the Appalachia. I say Appalachia. Is it Appalachia or Appalachia? I don't know. Americans, let me know. But I love books set in that location. There's something about the way writers write about the Appalachia that I just think is so beautiful. So I'm really excited to dive into this. I'm actually, frankly, to be honest, a little bit more excited to read this book than I am The Fourth Wing. but I am going to read The Fourth Wing first. That's what I'm currently reading. This is just basically a long-winded way of saying don't be scared of books that sound like the book that you're writing. In fact, you should read them. You should see what they're all about. You should see what you like about them and what you don't like about them. Reading is so subjective and so personal, and there's no reason to be scared. There's just no reason to be scared because it's very, very likely that your work is completely different than the books that sound like your books. So there it is. I'm reading this, even though one of the characters is named similarly to my main character, and it's about dragons. That's where the similarities, frankly, completely halt.